All right, so I go to the third paper presenter. And I'm going to be having Ibrahim Jalili, one of my board members at the YAC, to read that profile for us.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ibrahim. So for the next presentation, we have Mr. Olumiwa. Today, it's a great honor to have you in our midst. So, hereby I read his profile. Olumiwa Adebayo is a distinguished finance executive with extensive expertise in financial reporting, risk management, transaction, and adherence to international financial standards. His academic achievements includes a higher national diploma in business administration from Yaba College of Technology, he has a bachelor's degree in actuarial science honor from the University of Lagos and an MBA from the University of Cumbria, UK. Further, he holds advanced certification in transfer pricing from Middlesex University, UK, Data Science and AI University of Texas at Austin, and Blockchain Technology, University of Cape Town. Olumiwa is an intentionally certified professional holding the CFA Chartered Economic Gap USA and fellowships from ICAN, CITN, and the Institute of Credit Administration. He is also a CGMA, ACMA, AICPA, and CIMA holder, alongside ACCA's IFRS diploma and CIMA's advanced diploma in management accounting. He further holds the prestigious FI, MC, and CMC designation. Professionally, Olumiwa has made significant contribution in banking, risk management at Deloitte IFRS Advisory, where he played a key role during Nigeria IFRS adoption. Currently as the Group Head of Tax and Financial Control at Sahara Group, a multinational energy conglomerate. He oversees tax planning, transfer pricing, financial reporting, risk management, capital allocation, and financial strategies across trade, upstream, downstream power, and infrastructure sectors, ensuring alignment with strategic and compliance goals. A highly respected thought leader, Olumiwa served as the chair of the Committee of Finance Experts at NECA and once held a board position on ICAN Corporate Reporting Faculty for 2 consecutive presidential years, 2022 to 2023 and 2023 to 2024 financial year. His academic affiliations include programs at Harvard Kennedy School, SED Business School at the University of Oxford, George Business School at the University of Cambridge, Columbia Business School, and Rothman School of Management, University of Toronto. A passionate educator and mentor, Olumiwa imparts knowledge through professional tutorial for ICAN, ACCA, and others, currently leading financial reporting at Wise Associates Limited. Beyond his professional responsibility, he engaged the digital space as a YouTuber on financial reporting, tax, and financial modeling. As a data science enthusiast who developed the FinPolNomics GPT AI chatbot, Olumiwa's career reflects a remarkable blend of academic excellence, industry influence, and innovative thought leadership, delivering strategic financial solutions and sustainable value across global markets. Once again, we are We really appreciate your presence today. We are truly privileged to have you in our midst. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe I can share my screen now.
Yes. Then please, can I just give you, we'll run with you till 12:10, so we can have a 15 minutes question and answer as well. We're truly happy to have you here with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
I meant to say 1:10, 10 minutes past 1, not 12:10. 1:10 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I appreciate the opportunity you've given to me to be here today. And I think before I start, I will have to imagine myself to ask whether I am a young accountant or not. Because when I could see very senior people also probably making claim to be young accountant, it then means that probably I'm also a young accountant, because the future of accounting resides with the young accountants. Therefore, on this premise, probably I have to bring myself to be recognized among the young accountants. And the beauty of it also is that today we'll be talking about what the young accountant seems to more or less consider as part of what is going to provide that enablement in the future, and which speaks to how we will harness cloud computing technology towards an effective financial system. Okay, probably I would like to play just a short video, but because of the time, I think I won't be able to play it again. Okay, but let's look at the objective that we wanted to achieve at this section. Okay, more or less I could group it into 4 cardinal points. The first aspect is to understand the historical trend and context, and let's bring it to the present of the adoption of cloud computing and in relation with finance. And the second aspect that we are going to look at is much more of exploring what benefit exists for organizations where we will be working as a young and future accountants, what benefits cloud computing brings to the table. Likewise, we also look at challenges, because in every innovative idea or innovation that comes to mind, it comes with its own cost and challenges. And likewise, we look at it in real world. How do we apply effectively to enhance productivity, cloud computing? Likewise, we will be looking at trying to identify existing and emerging areas where future accountants like me will be annexing cloud-driven environment towards ensuring that we provide value to the business or organizations in which we find ourselves. And likewise, I'd like to discuss practical steps, at least, that effectively can allow organizations to achieve that traction and trajectory with respect to adopting cloud computing. And this will be in about 5 different structure slides. Now, the first aspect I'll be looking at is, let's come from the past so that we can better appreciate the present and be able to have greater expectation about the future. And that border on talking about the past, where we're coming from. And the first thing we need to look at here is to ask ourselves, cloud computing 101, synonymous to accounting 101, which means what we mean by cloud computing in its real sense. Okay, to more or less put a framework and context to this, what we find out is that people misconstrue what cloud is all about. Sometimes when you say your file is on the cloud, my data is on the cloud, my application is sitting on the cloud. Therefore, the question then is, what do you mean by cloud? Okay, it may be still shocking that many people still believe cloud means the same cloud we look when we look at the sky. and people will now be confused. Over time, if you have had the opportunity to fly within Nigeria or outside Nigeria, but you have never seen anything in the cloud is just a plain, what's it called, a plain surface. Therefore, where are these things in the cloud? And I would just like to more or less iterate that when we talk about cloud in this context, it's just a boost. Now we are only talking about a remote access to a computing facility. Probably will have used the word remote computing. But again, cloud is just to show that we are looking at things without borders, without necessarily being fixated in a particular location. And therefore, that is what we mean by cloud. And therefore, every form of computing that is done at a central point somewhere else, where you can even share facility and have more computing power at a lower cost, we consider such environments as a cloud environment. And therefore, the main clouds still sit in this world we are. And where they sit is always known as a data center. And I think that will bring us to bear to further appreciate what cloud computing is all about. Therefore, cloud computing 101, what does it entail? It only entails us finding an on-demand computing service where we can either store our data, where we can have access to server in case we have some robust technology which have to be hosted at said server, or in which server infrastructure is in demand, and also where we can warehouse our data, what we call a database. Okay, in all of this, we are now saying that such an environment is a cloud environment provided we can only access it through an internet infrastructure. Which then means that three things are key about cloud computing. One, you have the data center where the physical infrastructure exists remotely from wherever organizations operate. Two, you have internet service that links every user to that data center remotely without having knowledge of the physical presence or otherwise. And the third thing is then to have the knowledge of the usage of that cloud service. And therefore, we have more or less delineated what cloud computing is all about. And what is also unique about cloud computing is that it's usually pay per use, or at least subscription-based pricing. And we're going to see that as we move on to identifying that we have three classifications to which we can access service in the cloud. And these three categories, which are service model in the technical language, are what is known as IaaS, which we call infrastructure as a service. And we're going to look at it in a couple of minutes. And we also look at platform as a service. And we also look at software as a service. Yeah, these are technical words, but we can more or less try to understand it in its breadth. Now, let me try to break it down for us so that it's not technical in nature. Now, first, I've identified that there are things you could do with cloud computing. What access do you need? Is access to computing services, which are remote access. And therefore, the access might be you needed a server to host any of your IT development or program development. You might need a server or a data center that will provide you with humongous computing power such that you can use the likes of the GPUs, TPUs, MPUs, and the likes. And I'm going to explain what those CUs are, as the case may be. Now, in that situation, what then happens is that you needed infrastructure in one way or the other to enhance your computing capability, so that you may not have the capital outlay to more or less put that infrastructure in place, or where you have the capital outlay, the cost of maintaining it might become onerous, and it outweighs the benefits. And also issues that borders on security, expertise, and all of those things are limiting factors to you having your own computing power located on premise, which means within your own office or offices, as the case may be. Therefore, when we look at infrastructure as a service, you find out that this more or less is used as where you have a whole access end-to-end to the computing infrastructure that has been ring-fenced for you as an organization by a cloud service provider. Example of cloud service provider that is known to us much more is Amazon. And remember AWS, Amazon Web Service. We also talk of Microsoft Azure, and you also talk of Google Cloud, amongst others. But those three are the primary ones. And therefore, in that case, you have end-to-end access to both infrastructure, to all of the computing power, allocation of machines and the likes, but you also pay as you go. Now, platform as a service is more or less like a scale down of it, which means I don't need more of a ring-fence. What I just need is a development environment where I can test my application, where I can host some of my application, where I can connect APIs. And what we call APIs is more or less application programming interface, which means it's allowed two or more separate operating systems or software to interact. Okay, for example, if you want to understand API from that aspect, we say we have a marketplace, probably a Jumia, for example, and you have a bank. Therefore, how do you purchase on Jumia so that you use your card and you are more or less being debited with your bank immediately? Because both Jumia and the bank has API interface, okay? And that's what API means in that respect. Now, the last one is the lowest level where you and I play mostly, and that is software as a service. In this case, you have no direct access to any of those infrastructure other than you having your data, your assets customized for you as an end user. And in that case, that's why you have things like Google Drive that you use, things like iCloud. You also have things where you have access to some applications online, including your Gmail. All of those ones are more or less software as a service, which means you only have a user access to operating any of such developed software or application on the internet in a remote environment. And therefore, within all of this, you find out that the users depend on the capabilities that were involved. And as you have seen, by the time you have access to the material, you see more of the use cases and some other things like that. But again, in a summary, I'll just show you pictorially what it means, which means if it's on-premise, you have all of this. The application is just your data, your runtime, your middleware and operating system and the likes. You host them within your premises, whether off-site or on-site. But when it's infrastructure as a service, therefore, you more or less only have access to the infrastructure that is referenced to you with respect to application access, data access, runtime access, middleware access, and operating system. But if you took a platform, which is a more scaled down approach, which means it's just for development and data warehousing, therefore you have things like applications and data, and that's where you see more of developers of software that you guys may use. They have this access. And likewise, for you and I, we have no access to all of this other than you have a user experience where we go and watch Netflix, where we go and do Facebook and some other things like that. And therefore, we only more or less pay as you go or use by subscription base and access to a remote access computing power where you can do whatever you want to do as an organization. And I'll give you a typical example for finance perspective. Now, small businesses can now leverage on that, because one of the shortcomings of small businesses is that they have restricted or limited capacity for documentation, bookkeeping, record keeping, and the likes. Today, we have various software as a service where you can issue invoice, you can issue PO, you can issue receipt, you can do banking transaction at a go at as low as $5 per month. This is a typical example of software as a service, which then means that no matter how small you are as a business, therefore you don't need physical infrastructure. Most times you don't even need typical accounting software you have to host on your own premise. You just have to subscribe and have access to this, and it's being partitioned for you so that you can use it for your day-to-day operations. And this enhances the value of your business. Now, the major objective we are trying to achieve in this case is that we are trying to increase productivity. We are trying to enhance value for businesses. We are trying to increase access to technology so that it improves businesses' performance, efficiency. It also allows you to have good customer experience with your customers and reduce your cost of operating as a business. All of these things, more or less, are the key benefits that we bring to the table. But again, let's look at our past. Where did we start from? Now, I can look at it from three perspectives. The legacy system era, if you look at it within a 2-decade, 1970 to 1990, all what we know those days are bulky computer equipment, which we know as a mainframe, okay? Manual maintenance process, limited in scalability, high infrastructure costs, power, and the likes. But between 2000 and some period before now, let me say about 5 or 10 years ago, we have private data center, remote hosting. Gradually, we're shifting from CapEx heavy to flexible payment model. But as of today, which is the present, cloud computing has now become the order of the day, where we now have hybrid for people that are already invested in those infrastructure. They now have hybrid. And what hybrid simply means is based on premise and partly moving to cloud, which means over time, as you recoup all of your cost of investment in the on-premise, which will wear out over time, you now perfect it by going fully to the cloud. And today, you find such within the banking sector. Mostly the fintech are purely cloud. They are not even doing hybrid because they came in as a result of the cloud computing technology that has revolutionized the space. Insurance companies are also following through. Commerce industry, which means the likes of those that provides trade, marketing online, and the likes. And also, we then need to look at cost and benefits to this. Now, what is the benefit of cloud computing? And I can look at it from 4 points of view. The first one is issue of scalability and cost efficiency. What does that mean? Scalability means that imagine you have on-premise server, data center, and as your business double, therefore you need to increase your server, you need to increase your computing power, and all of these are capital intensive. But rather than do on-premise, what you do much more is cloud computing. You subscribe to Azure, you subscribe to AWS and the likes. And what then happens, because you pay as you use, you pay as you go, therefore your cost is marginal rather than investing in capital infrastructure. You don't do that because the cloud provider, AWS, Google, has invested in those infrastructure. You are just borrowing those infrastructure for use. Therefore, you can easily scale from low level to high level. And if your operations scale down, you can also scale down from high level to low level. And that's the beauty of such environment. Another aspect is the cost, because you are more or less having a proportion of the entire cost being shared to you. Therefore, it comes at very cheap cost than you having such facility within yourself. Other aspect is that this also, because of the advent of analytics, AI, this infrastructure also have some other stuff that they provide for you as ancillary services that can assist you to analyze data and some other events within that space, which you would not have had if you have on-premise. Or if you have it on-premise, you need to invest in another set of infrastructure and some other things like that. Now, the third aspect is security. Now, for security under IT, there are two aspects. We have the physical security and we have the technological or the IT security itself. Physical security is that if you are on-premise, you have a server. Therefore, in that situation, you need physical, more or less, restriction or access. You need personnel to guard it out. You invest in such things. You also invest in power continuously. And also, you still have IT security in terms of hackers and some other things like that. But in this case, in a cloud computing system, all of that has been taken care of by the provider, which is AWS or Google, as the case may be. And therefore, you are not more or less exposed. Likewise, it allows you also to easily comply with global standards with respect to data integrity, because your data sits within such space that is globally certified. And that is one of the advantages. And likewise, the biggest advantage also borders on the agility, innovations, and collaborations, whereby remotely you can have access to all your business data, so that even when you are not physically present in the office, once you can have access to your more or less your login assets, you can work from anywhere. Your business does not stop because I'm not physically in office. You can access data since everything sits on the cloud, or because, as you have said, the cloud is borderless, which means once you have internet and you also have the login access, therefore you can continue to work seamlessly across board. And all of this contribute to the productivity that we demand. Also, it comes with its own challenges, and we'll look at the challenges. Likewise, we'll look at the mitigants. Now, let's look at one of those challenges there is that within the cloud system, there's also issue of compromise. And that is what has made cybersecurity a great, more or less, order of discussion today. Therefore, and that's why you see that many professionals are now moving to cybersecurity, because the world has realized that we can't do without cloud computing, but it comes with its own risk of hacking and some other things. Therefore, we need a set of professionals and set of new technologies and inventions to protect and secure people's data, access, and all sorts of things. All of this also brings about challenges to that. Okay, what are the threats we face? Data breaches. Probably I compromise my password with somebody that is not even working in my organization. Therefore, but that person can use my same password to log in into the cloud, because it is presumed that you will have held your password and some other things in high order. Another aspect is ransomware, where they can penetrate you through email, such that once you click some links, and they are able to more or less lock you down and have hold of your data points. And in that case, you'll be asked to pay money for that. Phishing, sending you mail, pretending as if you are someone that they are not, and some other things. But what are the mitigants that we put in place today? One is that zero trust security model is always consider multi-factor authentication. If you are familiar with WhatsApp, it will tell you now that do two-level authentication. That's what it means. Continuous monitoring of situations and access. Second aspect also is regulatory and compliance requirements. Like in Nigeria, we have equally tapped into the European rule that talks about data protection. In Nigeria, we now have the data protection regulation that also talks about how data, especially data of others, customers, and the likes, are protected. And in this case, we partner with cloud providers offering regional specific data center, okay, or maintain robust audit log to track access to your data. Apart from that, we talk about integration with legacy systems. Some of our systems are outdated, but because of the cost involved, we might want to manage the situation, okay? And that also brings about problem. And also lack of standard APIs, as I've said earlier. API stands for Application Platform Interface, okay? And in that case, what do? We face migration. Therefore, you don't just move, you pilot it, and you gradually move until you get to that level. Okay, we talk about having API-based integration, and as I said earlier, pilots. Now, what are the skill gaps? We have skill gaps, we have training. These are new areas that we need to more or less continuously lay all the new dealings within that space. And that is also key for us. Domain knowledge, domain experience are equally required. As you all know, we have various applications and even free courses that borders on all of this cloud computing, which interests we accountants the more. Now, also, let's look at it. This is where we can look at it from the perspective of future young accountants like I do now, okay? And in this perspective, we'll be looking at what then are the new trend and future outlook. Today, we'll talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning integration, whereby you can automate your invoice processing. You can even access credit without you manually reviewing such. we can carry out predictive auditing and some other things like that. All of these are based on machine learning algorithms. And to some extent, deep learning neural algorithms can be used. These are the new areas that we need to look at. Okay, when you call yourself an accountant or a finance professional, therefore, it's critical for you to understand that both those things that make accounting not interesting those days has now been addressed with the advent of technology, and most especially the internet revolution and the cloud computing power that we have today. Therefore, all of this try to enhance efficiency, accuracy, free time for you to do more strategic things like decision-making, like strategic work, drawing up insights, and also of things that provide more value rather than just repetitive and mundane work. Also, edge computing and serverless architecture. Okay, it speaks to all what we have discussed earlier, whereby your operations now sit on the cloud. Even all what we are doing today is on the cloud. We are all on the cloud now because we all at different locations, even outside this country, have access to the same infrastructure to be able to achieve the delivery that we have today. Now, also we talk about quantum computing. This talks much more about, today we have a lot of data sets and we have complex situations. Quantum computing now use more higher level computing power to scale up operations so that we can be able to achieve results that is foolproof. And therefore, you now see that most of the data centers now provide you with access to bigger computing power, such as the GPU. GPU is a graphical processing unit, okay? And we also have TPU, which is a tensor processing unit. That one is for Google. And we also have, in a complex environment where you are building algorithms for AI, you use things like the neural processing unit, which we call NPU. Now, today, we are also now focusing on the fact that sustainability is the order of the day. Everything we want to do today, we are looking at how sustainable it is. How does it affect the planet? How does it affect the people? How does it affect organization? Therefore, everything we are looking at today is not just cloud computing, but also green cloud computing. And that's what we need to take into consideration.
Adebayo, you have, how many minutes should I give you more?
I say I have like 5 minutes before I'll wrap it up in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, please do. Thank you.
Now,
we're enjoying you. It's just that we are time bound. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Also, the evolving role of young accountants today, existing core areas that we have today is financial report analysis, audit and assurance, taxation and compliance, corporate governance and risk management. But again, I would like to tell you, which we all know, that the emerging field, which you need to more or less embrace, all because the existing core rules now, AI agents, AI itself, and other algorithms will take over of it. Therefore, what we need to do is for us to understand how those things work, and we are a better professional to manage those affairs. And that's why today, the emerging fields are data analytics and visualization for people that understand Tableau, Power BI, and the likes, to interpret large data sets, drive decisions, and the likes. We also talked about the cybersecurity and digital forensic, which is also a key area. You know, I've told you, because we are now in cloud, everybody might intentionally have access to what ought not to have access to. The other aspect is ESG reporting and sustainability accounting. And finally, fintech is the order of the day in all our commerce, and therefore fintech product development is equally key to what we do. Now, the skills set needed for today and tomorrow can be summarized under these 4 points. 1, technical aptitude. Familiarize yourself with cloud platforms, basic coding, and data analytics. And the beauty of it is that people run from coding before, but coding is much more interesting today because it's of a low-level language, which is write code in English. And to now make it more interesting, the advent of ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and the likes will now even make you not write code other than you prompt the code and you copy the code and you run with it. But you need the basic knowledge to be able to run with it. Strategic thinking is the order of today. What set of knowledge you need that will more or less always allow you to translate financial data into actionable insights for leadership purposes. Innovation and leadership, proactive identifying process improvements. Like the case in theory, we're talking about continuous improvement. What do I do today that I can improve a bit on a daily basis before I get there? And lastly, we talk about global collaboration, working across borders, understanding international regulation and standard. And also, you can't do without your peer review. In today's world, for technological advancement, there are platforms that we call more or less online platform, open-ended platform, or we call it open source, where you can have access to unlimited knowledge sharing solutions, and some other things online. Okay, and lastly, practical strategies that companies can adopt have been identified. One, vendor selection and assessment is key. Phased migration approach is key. Robust governance and compliance framework is key. And culture of continuous learning is key. But as simple as I've identified them, it's not always easy because you need to leapfrog. And the way you leapfrog is always to bring in consultants that have experience in this kind of implementation. Otherwise, it might take longer time and cost to achieve the same objective. And that is that. All things being equal, I think is a question time. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oluimiwa Adebayo. And thank you again for keeping to time. We understand the time constraints, but this is actually very loaded and very educative and mind-blowing. There are some people clapping for you here online. We're really engaged in your session, so we want to say thank you. The Young Accountants Development Committee is honored to have you take us through this wonderful topic. So we will be taking questions and answers for the next 10 minutes. So you have one question here, first of all. It says, my question to Mr. Muyiwa, in order to increase my knowledge base in the cloud computing system as an individual who has knowledge in accounting and finance, what course can I embark on? The person wants a specific course to embark on to increase his knowledge base on cloud computing system. Okay. Do you have any recommendation of a particular course for him?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there's no particular course, but I would also like to lay a foundation. Cloud computing is a means to an end. It's just an access, a remote access, a serverless access modularly to a computing environment. But what you want to compute also requires some depth of knowledge. For example, a Power BI tool or a Tableau tool is a business intelligence tool, okay, where you could bring in large data sets to drop insight, to predict, and to build whatever visualization. But which means that knowledge is much more key before you even go into that cloud environment. Therefore, I will first of all say the knowledge we need today, most young accountants, the best knowledge we need today is data analytics. Okay, when we talk about data analytics, there are different levels. The lowest level of data analytics is Excel, okay, or Google Sheets, building models within those things, using those functions, okay. Next level is SQL, structured query language, which is much more to manage database, or because most database sits in the cloud, okay, and because they are usually relational database. Therefore, the most sophisticated and globally adjusted technology or language that can be used to query such database is the SQL. Another level is issue of you've queried data, you've extracted data, but you needed more of insights. And you do more of insight through visualization and analytics. And therefore, you now start to call things like Power BI, Tableau, and the likes. And therefore, that's another level of skill. Now, the next level of skill is where you started to make more prediction and prescription, which means you now move to data science level, where you now be using Python and the likes to build machine learning algorithms, deep learning algorithms, in order to make such a stuff. That is another level, which is data science. Therefore, all of these are there. Now, the only advice I'm going to give is that depending on the level you are today, you can scale it up. How you can scale it up, you can go through formal school, you can go through online learning, whether free or paid for. But at least at the bare minimum, you have a lot of free access to all of these learning platforms. And I'll give you an example. YouTube is your number one. Look for identified specialists on different areas on YouTube and follow them and follow their bootcamp, which is always free. Okay. Second level is that if you want it to be structured somehow where you could have a layout, therefore you can start to use applications like Udemy, EDX, Coursera, and most especially you can use W3 School. I always recommend W3 School because they built even those platforms into it so that you don't need IDE environments or you don't need a workspace environment for SQL for you to practice it. Everything is built into the platform so that I can see that. And later on, you can now go for certification courses, either with Microsoft, with Google, with Amazon, and the likes, if you just want to have it paper-based, which means you just want certifications to it. But again, all of these are project-based, are practical in nature, and you continue to build on it. It is after then you can now go for cloud computing itself, which means how do you deploy? Because the knowledge you now need at that point is deployment. And you only need that knowledge if you fall within a developer level, which means you are now more or less developing apps or developing some models that needed to be scaled up for commercial use or for organizational use and the likes. Therefore, those are the trajectory to follow. You don't just go into cloud computing. Cloud computing is just to provide you access to machines and other ancillaries just to enhance your computing power in a serverless and remote environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I'll take one more question. So what are the prospects of and how can accountants thrive in the aspects of development, which is cloud computing inclusive? Do you advise the focus on being developer to be developing engineers or use IT knowledge to complement their skills as accountants?
Okay, yeah. I think the best minimum is that every accountant must have a user experience first, which means your role as an accountant is to harness a tool or tools towards enhancing your value you are giving to your organization or to your clients. Okay, it's now a secondary knowledge for an accountant to say, I want to leave the front end or user end to the back end. Everything is a level. When you're not going to the back end, you're already drifting away from being an accountant. Therefore, probably you just want to go and leverage on technology itself and now try to use your knowledge of accounting to enhance that technology. Therefore, you now become someone developing applications, developing softwares, and some other things that make it more robust because you are once an accountant first, or you are first an accountant, and second, you are a technologist. Therefore, you can build all of these things up. Okay, for example, I'll give you an example. I am a developer also for within the open AI space. Okay, I developed a chatbot on FinPolNomics GPT. Okay, FinPolNomics means anything that borders on finance, politics, and economics. Therefore, within that space, my GPT will provide you access to solve problems that ChatGPT will do. Okay, but it's much more trained with data that are finance, valuation, actuarial, risk, tax, and also data. Okay, which means it's specialized. Therefore, I took that interest because I have more or less, to certain extents, experienced more of the usage and other things. Now, my interests have moved away from just accounting and finance to a data scientist and an AI specialist. Okay, and in doing that, I have to go as far as US, I have to go as far as India, I have to go as far as Australia to learn most of those things. And because they are project-based, they are practical, I was able to develop those things. And therefore, you can have a drift, but you can't just say, as an accountant, I want to jump, because you might jump there, and if you are not prepared for it, you might jump out. And again, before you jump there, you are trying to leverage accounting for that, except if you want to totally say, I'm tired of accounting and finance, I just want to be a technologist, or because, you know, that is the future where probably people see money sits. And therefore, you know, as Nigerians, we always have a drift towards where money resides. Okay, and probably before the end of the session, I can just show my interface where you could see my GPT, and you could ask a question that I'll put into the question. Probably my GPT will answer the final question that you present to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've actually gone out of time, but I like that bit of having a practical demonstration. So I will allow one more question so that
the last question will be answered not by me.
Answer that. Okay.
Yeah, the last question will be answered by GPT that you are seeing on the interface.
Okay, so two questions. Okay. Someone says I am a finance student. Which tech knowledge do I need in this field? And what tech knowledge do I also need to develop for political developments in voting in the country? So I'll just add the two questions together. Which tech knowledge do I need in this field? And which technology do I need for political developments in voting in the country? Participants, I hope you are seeing what he's doing. He's already doing practical.
Okay, I can read it out. Technology needed in accounting and finance. As a finance student, integrating technology into your skill set is crucial. Here are the key tech areas you should focus on. 1, data analytics and business intelligence, Microsoft Excel and Google Sheet, Power BI and Tableau, SQL, Python, and R. For financial modeling, you need discounted cash flow, DCF modeling, multi-calculus simulation, AI and machine learning for finance, enterprise resource planning, ERP system, SAP, Oracle Financials, QBox Zero, Microsoft Dynamics, financial regulation and compliance tech, IFRS and GAAP compliance software, Reg Tech, which is regulatory technology, blockchain and cryptocurrency, blockchain accounting, crypto accounting software, robotic process automation, RPA, which is what allows us to automate all of the mundane accounting tasks. Technology needed for voting in Nigeria, biometric voter registration, okay, electronic voting system, online voting services, election security and cyber awareness, civic tech and electioneering. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So
okay.
That's a practical demonstration of almost everything, what he's taught us today. Thank you very much, Mr. Olumiwa Debayo, for the insights you've given us to harnessing cloud computing technology towards an effective financial system. One interesting thing that I heard you say, and that resonates with me because it's actually been helpful to me. It's made my job easier and I work smarter because when you said something like internet, you said a lot of things that are very, very interesting, but just one that I want to still re-register now. When you said internet revolution makes accounting more interesting now. We're not, before people would say accounting is so boring because you have to compute and compute, you have to go find the answers yourself, you have to do a couple of things, a lot of things yourself. Imagine what you just chatted up for us here on your GBT. It's something that in those days, the lecturers will bring a class together and then you go through a project session, maybe for 1 week, 2 weeks, people are brainstorming to bring out all these answers. But now those answers are very handy to us. We don't need to go very robust researches to get all this anymore. The answers are just there on our fingertips. If we are truly knowledgeable about these things, if we have the insight and we have embraced cloud computing technology. So for me, I am a user. I'm not planning to be a developer at this point in time. The developers have their practical understanding of how to develop, but I am a user and I'm very happy and I flaunt my usage very well. So young accountants, that's the way to go now. The world is so big yet so small. So to be able to really compete and to have comparative advantage in a time like this, you just need to equip yourself with this all-important skill that you can never be overemphasized. Thank you, Mr. Adebayo, and I hope that you had a good time with us because we have had a good time too.
Thank you very much.
Do I have Onara Ibrahim Jalidi? Are you around to say Onara Jalidi? Are you around to say thank you? A vote of thanks to him.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please do.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sorry. Yeah, on behalf of everyone here today, I want to express our sincere gratitude for such an insightful and engaging presentation. It's of no doubt that we all need AI in this current environment that we are in. So the discussion on today's topic I'm sure has truly broadened everyone listening today, their understanding, and has given value to each one of us. So we appreciate your time and effort and what knowledge you have shared with us today. Thank you. We appreciate. So I would like to say to your house, please let's give a round of applause to the paper presenter on AI. The topic: harnessing cloud computing technology towards an effective financial system. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our participants are all happy because the rounds of applause are obvious there. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.